One of our favorite folks, our official attorney of the Two Guys Named Chris show, Lisa Lanier. Good to have you in the studio, Lisa.
Good to be here.
Good to see you.
Live and in person.
Absolutely. Now, normally at this time we do something called Lawyer Up when she goes inside legal stories. But today it's Ask a Lawyer. So if you call us now at 866-470-2GNC, you can actually ask her a legal question and get some free legal advice here. She's on right here. This is legal time that you get here, non-billable hours that you can ask her questions. And she was just saying you were supposed to go to Richmond this weekend, but they canceled for your daughter's volleyball tournament.
I was, yeah.
Now, did they cancel the whole thing because of weather or COVID, or how did that work?
No, she actually had an injury, so
oh, great!
Gosh, I'm gonna have to miss it. Yeah.
Oh, terrific!
I know.
So
right.
your
So sorry to hear that.
What are you going to do with your weekend?
All right.
So okay, all right. You and I we have such similar parenting styles. Yeah. An injury means beautiful free weekend.
Stay at home.
You don't have to drive through all bad weather and so
Right.
forth. A quick email question too before we get to phones. We have a P1 listener who says, "I have a question for Lisa when she comes in. My son's fiance gave birth and then about a week or so later started him with severe abdominal pains. Went back in. They found the doctor had left what he said was a splint inside." Which I don't know what he's talking about there with splint. But anyway, something was left inside, so she had to have surgery to remove it. And now, 2 months later, they've billed her for that surgery. It's their fault. Is there a lawsuit there? It seems like to me there would be.
Yeah, but the problem is it's probably not, the damages probably are not sufficient to make it worth a lawsuit, because a medical malpractice lawsuit costs just the expenses for all the experts and stuff. I mean, $100,000, $200,000. Attorney time, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You don't have that kind of damage here. But usually, like if this person will contact risk management for the hospital, explain what happened, usually they'll work with them, write off a bill, stuff like that.
Oh, that's good.
I did not know that about malpractice.
Very expensive.
I was fighting for a surgeon yesterday. Now, this was in England. A guy named Simon Bramhall, who's a very good surgeon. And he was doing a liver transplant, did two of them, in fact. And I guess he finished early or whatever and decided to add a little flair. So he burned his initials into the liver. Okay. And
Like a brand.
right. And one of the guys had a complication, not because of the initials, but he had a complication. So he went back in. A different surgeon opened up and said, "Why is SB tattooed?"
SB was here.
Well, they took his license away, and I said, "I didn't think it was all that bad."
I didn't either.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, Lisa.
I'm so glad you're on my side.
Yeah,
no,
totally.
Lisa.
Totally. I thought that was crazy. And we talked about that story like years ago.
I
Yeah.
thought so. Same type thing, yeah. And these two were like, "Oh, no, medical malpractice." Like,
There's no harm. I mean, yeah.
Except for the dead guy.
right.
You're my kind of attorney. We have Amanda on the line who has a question about, again, hospitals here. Lisa Lanier is with us, our official attorney. Amanda, go ahead with your question.
Yes, thank you. The question I had was, I was in an accident a couple of years ago, and I was trying to get an attorney. Well, I never saw the deal from the hospital because I went to the emergency room. And every time I would call the hospital, they would ask me if I had an attorney, and if it was at fault, and I would get. It wasn't my fault.
Did you get all that?
I heard a lot of womp.
I did. I can't hear you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I can't hear what you're saying. I didn't get any of that. I'm afraid.
Not much. Yeah, accident, and the hospital's asking if you have an attorney or who's at fault. Yeah.
Get this woman as your attorney. This is
I'm sorry.
Call her. I couldn't hear that.
I had a hard time.
I put you back on hold, Amanda. Maybe your phone line will clear up. We'll come back to you later. Alan, you have a question about, and this does have a child support question here for Lisa Lanier. Go ahead.
Yeah, I sure do. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So ultimately, my boys were in private school at the time of my divorce. One of them was in first grade. The other one was in preschool and had not yet started official elementary school. And I'm having to pay child support for that. That's fine. But my ex-wife recently changed them into a private school that's doubly expensive. And now I'm having to pay like $400 more a month. And so it's a two-part question, but the first part is, how do I have a leg to stand on to not have to continue paying more and more and more if she just keeps changing schools on me? Mm-hmm. And then my other part is, do I even have to pay for the second child because he wasn't even in elementary school So how has there been a standard when he wasn't even of age, you know?
I think it's a good question here.
Yeah, those are good questions. And usually the education is something that the parents have to agree upon. And sometimes that's actually contemplated in the custody agreement. But it sounds like maybe it was not in your case. I'm not sure. So, usually child support is actually based on your income, and it doesn't usually go up unless there's been a change, because there's a formula that's applied. And it doesn't usually change unless there's been a change in your income, and it can go up or down depending on that. You have to go ask the court. And it sounds like you're just voluntarily paying more because of the higher cost of the education. So, I mean, if you want to go challenge it, it's going to be based on your income. And if you're not already paying up to the max under the child support guidelines, then it sounds like you could be required to pay more. It just depends on how much you're making. And
right.
So, but not necessarily automatically having to pay for more expensive school.
I wouldn't think so. What about if his first child wasn't even in school yet? Now they're going to private school again. Same type thing, right?
I mean, it's it seems like you and your ex are going to have to agree on what kind of education the kids are going to get, and it's going to come down to that.
That's a fight too, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Thanks, Alan. Appreciate it. Good luck to you. Sounds like you could challenge that if your income hasn't changed, and you can wind up maybe not having to pay for that. Anonymous, a question for Lisa Lanier. Ask the attorney here. She's live in the studio today, our official attorney. Anonymous, go ahead.
Yeah, so in 2018, I entered into a agreement with a legal services company that said that they would help me settle my debt. And I had about $30,000 debt that I enrolled in a program with them. And then last year, about April or May, they said that they were dissolving the agreement completely. They would not tell me why.
Can they just do that? Dissolve an agreement like that?
Typically, it would depend. There's probably verbiage in the contract. I'm imagining some fine print that you would want to take a look carefully at the agreement and see. Typically you don't just dissolve a contract. You have to abide by the terms. But I would imagine that there is some kind of a provision, usually, especially if you're dealing with lawyers, that they've probably slid some language in there about that. At some certain point they can stop providing the service.
That's what you have to do is read all the fine print.
Read the fine print.
So what does that mean for the caller and her remaining debt? It's all on her again?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to, again, depend on what the contract says.
Jeez, that's too bad.
Yeah.
I don't like that. Maybe she got in with some shady attorneys.
Could be, yeah.
Thanks, Anonymous. I hope you read that, and hopefully it'll work out for you. Appreciate it. Mike has a question about a dentist. Mike, go ahead.
Hey, Lisa, how are you?
Hey, good. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, back December, a little over a year ago, I went to have a root canal done by a general practitioner dentist, not a specialist. He had to give me 3 shots of Novocaine to deaden the procedure. The third shot, the needle must have severed a nerve because I felt a sharp pain after 2 Novocaine shots. Okay, a year later, I'm still having a slight kind of a dead feeling where that Novocaine shot was given to me. And I'm wondering what's the statute of limitations on that kind of a thing, and should I pursue it because it's slight. It's not a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So dental malpractice, just like medical malpractice, like the caller a minute ago, or the inquiry a minute ago, it's expensive. You have to get all these expert witnesses, and they have to say that the dentist did something that was outside of the standard of care. And unfortunately, even when the dentist does everything right, you can still have a complication and a bad outcome. And it sounds like because it's slight, it's not going to be worth the cost of you pursuing it. It's going to be quite expensive to get dental experts and that sort of thing. And it doesn't sound like you're aware of anything that the dentist was trying to numb you. And I mean, it's not like you know anything about it's that would lead you to think that he put it in the wrong spot or something.
Right, yeah. Unfortunately, it sounds like it's not worth fighting.
Probably, yeah.
Oy.
Man, that's too bad. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate
Good
it.
luck.
I wonder what the dentist is saying. Yeah, you're not in pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all in your head.
That's too bad. A lot of times when it's medical, or you always say there's no point.
It's not worth it. Yeah, it has to be really big damages.
Yeah, but otherwise you're going to pay more for loss for the lawyer.
So, Lisa, you've said a couple times now that this medical malpractice can be expensive. If you're an average citizen and you want to pursue this, how many medical experts do you recommend a client have for a malpractice.
So, I mean, we do a lot of medical malpractice work, and we want to have at least 3.
Wow, that many.
Yeah, and you're thinking, let's say it's $5,000 each just to review the records, and that doesn't even touch what it's going to be for later for deposition testimony and that sort of thing.
It costs $5,000
on average. Yeah, it's about 5, sometimes more.
to review the records.
Oh yeah, I mean, because these doctors, they make good money in their practice, and so you're essentially having to pay them for their time away from their practice.
Okay.
Right. Plus, whoever you're suing, the dentist, the doctor, they're going to have attorneys on retainer to fight their battles for them.
Yeah, and then they're going to identify experts, and usually the defense will identify a crazy number of experts, and then you have to depose all of them, or most of us want to depose them. You have to pay for their time, and it's just it's incredibly expensive.
And who's deciding on that? Is that a jury thing, or is that just a judge a lot of times?
Jury.
Okay.
I should have been a darn lawyer.
Yeah.
Almost were.
This close.
Yeah.
I'm this close.
Based on the income?
Right.
Not the fight for justice?
No. At first I wanted to fight for the common man, and then I wanted the income, and then it turned out I wasn't smart enough to get the LSATs through me. Mike, you're talking about a question on a vehicle issue, car or truck. Go ahead.
Yes, I have a issue about a deck I got. Basically, what had happened, there was a defective part, and the company knew about it, but they went ahead and kept putting it in the vehicle anyway. Well, after 2 weeks, after the warranty ran out, they, refused to repair the vehicle under warranty, and it ended up costing me about $10,000 to get it repaired. Is there any way I could get any of that back somehow?
Wow, good question. Yeah, so they knew the part was going to break, put it in the vehicle anyway. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could certainly take them to small claims court. I mean, that would be, I think, and a lot of times, someone, you may have a hard time either A, finding an attorney to handle something like that, or B, it may not be worth it to pay, you're paying an attorney $300-400 an hour to do this. It's not worth it over $10,000 damage, right? So go file your own small claims action. And then a lot of times you'd be surprised how the magistrates and the judges are a little bit more lenient with people if you don't exactly know what you're doing. There's even, you can get a packet sometimes from the courthouse or online to tell you how to do it. And people have a surprising amount of success with that or getting it resolved.
Really?
Yeah.
And $10,000 is considered small claims?
Yes, it is.
Time consuming, though.
You really should have been a lawyer.
Gosh, God, no, that's a small claim.
Yeah, that's a small claim.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. But he's going to have to do his research and all that. He's going to have to, when he goes to court, he's going to have to know his stuff.
He's the guy.
He's the guy. He's the attorney, right?
He's the expert. He's the attorney.
He's all of it.
He's all rolled into one.
But I might try that for $10,000. That's a pretty big deal. Adam, you're talking about VA benefit. Do you have a question for Lisa? Go ahead.
Yeah, I got out of the Marine Corps in 2012. I did a tour to Afghanistan, another tour around South America, and I started having hearing issues. And I went through the VA, and they gave me a hearing test, diagnosed me with tinnitus, but they're trying to tell me it's not service-related. And I've been fighting with them for about 4 or 5 years. I was just trying to see what I need to do or what options I have to get that covered under my disability compensation.
Yeah, so you have to be able to prove that it's a service-related condition, and typically that involves doctor testimony. Like what we end up having to do is, and I have an attorney, Ashley Sappenfield, that does this, and we really appreciate your service, by the way. I mean, we have a lot of veterans on staff that work in that department, and basically we get a doctor to evaluate you and try to fight that, and show you got to prove that it's service related.
Okay, and it sounds like if he does, he's got a good shot at getting something.
Yeah.
Good luck to you, Adam. And thank you.
Unfortunately, sometimes hearing just decays, but mine.
Yeah, Kristen would know that.
I don't know if Lisa told you, or I don't know if Lisa knows. I had started. It was about 2013. Started having like real ringing in my ears.
Oh.
Tinnitus.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was tinnitus, so I went to the ear specialist. And I can't remember how much I paid. I had all these tests, and at the end of the day, they said, "You have tinnitus." And I said, "Now what?" And they said, "That's it. You're done."
You have ringing in the ears.
Because there's nothing that can be done.
There's nothing
right?
they can do.
Nothing can be
Here's
done.
give us $1,000.
It's kind of like
there's a new. I just actually read there's a new. The Shark Tank had these people on there that have come up with this CBD oil concoction that's supposed to cure it. You should check it out.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
They
really
funded
cool.
it.
I'll
Yeah.
put it on a Q-tip and swab it in the ear? Or?
Probably. I don't know. I just read it. It said that these people got funding from
I'll have
this.
to Google Shark Tank and tinnitus. Thank you, Lisa.
Are you watching the new Sex in the City?
I haven't yet. No.
Oh, then never mind.
Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
I hope to. Yeah.
Either the Shark Tank or tinnitus.
What was the segue there?
There's an issue with
Well,
a
they're
hearing
aging.
aid.
Okay.
One of them can't hear.
That's it.
Never mind.
Charlotte has arthritis.
Right.
She wants to hire a lawyer.
Big,
Wait a
right.
minute now. Now, if you want to come over and I'll catch
Yeah.
you up on this show,
Yeah.
I'll be glad to. Steve, you wanted to have a question about alcohol. Go ahead. Dave just perked up. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, Lisa, in the state of North Carolina, to carry a concealed weapon, you have to have a zero limit of alcohol in your system. If I were to go out and have a couple of non-alcoholic beers and then get something happen, is that a defense for me, or is I'm just up the creek?
Yeah, good question.
Good question.
Non-alcoholic beer have a little bit of alcohol, but
Yeah, but I don't think it would be enough to. I think you'd be in pretty good shape.
You'd
there.
be okay.
Yeah, I don't think a non-alcoholic beer would be enough.
because something like even little flavorings and stuff occasionally have a little alcohol. Yeah.
Yes, mouthwash. Well, actually, I mean,
Right.
if you just recently did like a Listerine swish, you'll blow and
Right.
it'll detect it, but it's not enough.
Thank you, Steve.
What is the number?
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody at home's keeping score.
He's asking
Point what?
for a friend.
Point where?
Good luck, Steve. Have your O'Douls. Have a few. You'll be all right. That's good.
Caliber.
Okay.
Get it? Caliber?
Got it. Yeah.
Steve, you have a question about your son. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. How you doing?
Hey, good, Steve. Go ahead.
Well, my son is now 27 years old, and at the age of 18, he hung out with the wrong crowd and got into some trouble. And now he wants he has a criminal record with some misdemeanors on it, and I'm asking him about an expungement.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What is the rule there?
I think you should probably consult with somebody. Usually it's somebody that does criminal law, and it's going to depend on how long ago and what level misdemeanor and how long he's been without any kind of infraction. But yeah, it certainly is possible. But I would find if you just Google, expungement, you'll find and people that do that, they do a lot of it and they know their stuff.
An expungement
but it's
lawyer.
really going to depend on a lot of factors about because there's levels of misdemeanors. It's going to depend on the level, how long ago, that kind of thing.
Do you know how often, just if you had to guess, how often someone can get their record wiped clean? Is it 50% of the time, 20%?
I don't know. It's pretty. I think the court is willing to do it if the person has shown that they're clean for
Keep
a
your
long
nose clean
time.
for a
Keep
while.
your nose clean. But but it's not something that's easy to do.
Well, but it sounds like 9 years. Maybe you've got a real shot at that.
Yeah.
All right, Steve. Good luck to you. Good luck to your son. That's an interesting one to me. My son is 16, and I come back in 11 years.
Yeah.
The inevitable phone call from the law.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll be waiting. Sam, you have a question about a legal case that you've won. Go ahead.
Hey, thank you guys so much for allowing me the opportunity to talk to you guys. So my mother, she is old. She had some tenants back up in Minnesota. They didn't pay her. They caused her lots of damage. She took them to small claims court, and she won. The judgment was for a few $1,000s. But somebody like Mike on a previous call about his truck issues, you could take him to small claims court, but they never paid her.
No.
And so we contacted a lawyer, and he was like, yeah, it's not enough money to really do anything about. And so my question is, what's the point of taking somebody to small claims court if they can simply not pay and it's too expensive to go after them?
Man, that's crazy. That's a good question. It's just unfair.
Yeah, well, that's something that we run into a lot with people that approach us about a claim, and it's like, is there a source of money to once you get a judgment? Is there a source of money there, like dog bite cases, for example? Somebody doesn't have homeowners insurance, you're going to try to get that from them.
Yeah.
If they don't have homeowners insurance, they probably don't have enough money to pay a judgment for their dog attacking you either. I mean, it's one of those kind of things where you have to kind of analyze before you go into like the small claims. Are you going to be able to collect? Is there any money? You can't get blood out of a turnip.
Right. So is that it? There's nothing he can really do?
Well, I mean, if like in the previous caller where he was going after a company, then he could enforce that judgment because there's a pocket there, right?
Okay, right.
Probably a pretty deep pocket.
Yeah, but tenants.
But the tenant, nah.
How much money do they owe, Sam, if you don't mind me asking?
$6,000, $6,000.
That's a pretty big deal to me.
Yeah.
You lawyers, you think it's nothing.
Well, but you got to pay, right? You got to pay for my time, right? If I'm doing it, I mean, I don't do that work, but I mean, if I'm going to charge you by the hour, and pretty quickly, I'm going to eat up your $6,000. You know,
man.
Can the law get involved at some point and say, "Hey, look, they owe me money," and go arrest them?
Yeah, I mean, it's enforcing a judgment is complicated, and a lot of lay people, have trouble doing it. But you can certainly get a judgment enforced. But then again, even if you do it on your own, pro se, is there actually anything there to get from these people? Do they have any money? Do they have $6,000? Doubt it.
It sounds to me like you're saying you'll do it pro bono.
Nah.
Thank you, sir.
In Minnesota, right.
Thank you, sir. We have time for 30 seconds, and Mike has a question about a car. Mike, go ahead.
Morning. I bought a car, and it was giving me, it was a used car, and they'd been giving me some issues. So I went to the dealership to ask about a trade value, and they came back to me and said, since I bought the car, they asked if I had gotten into any wrecks. I said no, and they asked because on the Carfax, there were 2 new accident reports on it since that I bought the car, but they were from accidents 2 years or a year and a half prior to me buying the car.
Oh, wow.
Is there anything he can do to get the value of the car right, or is you just out of luck?
Yeah, so it's harder with a used car because if you got to buy a new car, you get the protection of lemon laws, and and that's pretty helpful. Used cars, no, not so much, unless there was some kind of overt fraud. Like they would have had to have said to you, this car's never been in an accident, and while knowing that it had been in an accident.
Oh, I see.
But if it was just a delay in it showing up on the Carfax report and the seller didn't know it either, you're kind of in a tough spot.
That's what they call my car, lemon law.
Lemon law.
That's the name of it. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Unfortunately, it sounds like you're out of luck.
Oy.
It's too bad.
Boy.
Especially these small cars.
We slammed a lot of doors and faces.
Yeah,
this
you
morning.
did.
Yeah.
Mostly,
I did, yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Debbie Downer today, right?
Really, we could have just said, don't bother calling her.
Right.
You lose.
And you lose. Right.